Alright, welcome back everybody. In this video we're going to look at our third and final form of a linear equation that we're going to look at. We're going to look at the point-slope form. It says here the point-slope form of a linear equation is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1, where m is the slope. So whatever the slope is, we're just going to put it right there in this equation. And x1, y1 is the point that the graph passes through. So we're going to take that x coordinate, put it right here. And we're going to take that y coordinate, put it right here. Everything else in the equation is the same every time we write a point-slope form equation. Okay, that all stays the same, everything that I've highlighted in orange. So we're going to go ahead and write an equation in point-slope form here. So what I can kind of do here is set it up. I've got y minus something equals slope times quantity x minus something. And then I just need to fill these values in. The slope goes right here. So I'm going to put a 3 there. The x coordinate of the point goes right here. I'm going to put a 4 right there. And the y coordinate of the point goes right here. So I'm going to put a 5 right there. And there's the point-slope form of the equation. Y minus 5 equals 3 times the quantity x minus 4. We'll do the same thing in part B here. Got y minus the y coordinate is equal to slope times the quantity x minus the x coordinate. And I'm going to go through the same process again. I take my slope right here in front of the parentheses on the right hand side, so negative 1/2 goes in there. My x coordinate of my point goes right here. It's negative 2. And my y coordinate of my point goes right here. That's positive 3. And I can simplify this a little bit since I have minus a negative in my parentheses. I'm going to write my point-slope equation as y minus 3 equals negative 1/2 times the quantity x plus 2. Now something you'll notice about this when you see this, because of these minus signs in the point-slope form, what happens is the values that we see in our equation here are always, I guess I should highlight down there, are always the opposite in sign from the coordinates of the point. Okay, so that's something to kind of know and pay attention to. If you think about it that way, then we don't need to go through the work and simplification that we did in part B though. Alright, let's go on, and we're going to use the fact that these are in point-slope form to graph the equation. Okay, so we can identify pieces of information from this equation. First of all, the number in front of parentheses here is the slope. And then I've got the x coordinate of the point and the y coordinate of the point. So this goes through the point 4, 3. And so in order to graph this, I'm going to go to my graph and I'm going to plot the point 4, 3 right here. And then I'm going to generate additional points by using rise over run. I go up 1 and over 2 to the right, up 1 and over 2 to the right. And now I can see the points starting to form the line. And I'm going to go ahead and use my handy dandy ruler to draw my line through those points. And there is the graph of y minus 3 equals 1/2 times the quantity x minus 4. All right, let's do the same thing in part B. The slope is going to be negative 2/3, and it's going to go through point 3. Now notice, since I have a plus here, my y-coordinate of my point is going to be a negative 4, because the sign of those coordinates is always the opposite of the sign in front of the number in the point slope form. So I graph the point 3 comma negative 4, and then I'm going to use my slope. I'm going to go down 2 and over 3 to the right, down 2 and over 3 to the right, and now I have a bunch of points for my line, and I break out my handy dandy ruler, and I go ahead and draw the line through those points, and there's the graph of y plus 4 equals negative 2/3 times the quantity x minus 3. So that's how I can graph an equation that's in point slope form. I identify the slope, I identify the point, I plot the point, and then I use the slope to get additional points. Alright, last example in this little lesson on point slope form. We're going to write the equation in point slope form for this graph. And there are going to be more than one way for us to do this, to write this equation. Because I can identify more than one point on this graph. For instance, I might use the point right here, because there's a point where the line clearly goes through the intersection of the grid lines. That's the point negative 4 comma 4. So it goes through negative 4 comma 4. The other thing I can see about this is that the slope, go down 2 and over 3 to the right. So my slope is going to be 2/3. So one equation that would represent this line is y minus 4 equals 2/3 times the quantity x plus 4. That's one equation that I could write that would represent this line. Now realize there are other points that we can identify from the graph. The slope is always the same on this graph. But there are other points that I can identify that I could also use to write the equation. For instance, this point right here, the point negative 1 comma 2. And I could write the equation y minus 2 equals 2/3 times the quantity x plus 1. Oh, I forgot my negative sign in my slope. I hope you caught that. I didn't until right then. Negative 2/3. So there's another equation that we could use. I could pick yet another point. I've got this point over here, the point 2 comma 0. And I could write the equation y minus 0 equals negative 2/3 times the quantity x minus 2. So there's another equation. I could pick this point right here. Any of these points that are on the intersections of grid lines, that's the point 5, negative 2. So I could write the equation y plus 2 equals negative 2/3 times x minus 5. So there's a wide variety of equations that I can write to represent this line when I'm writing them in point slope form. And all of these equations are equivalent to one another. They all represent that one same line. Alright, that's the end of this lesson on point slope form. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.